Hello, and welcome to the 126th episode of Rambling Weekly. How's it going? As you can see, I am in comfy core mode with ridiculous hat and all. I actually really like this hat. No turkey hat. We might wear it next week, but I don't know. I've kind of grown attached to this hat. I think it is totally me. I don't know what that says about me, but it is totally me. But hi, how are you doing? Hope you are doing well. I'm doing pretty good. Not really terribly much to update on things. Truth be told, I'm in the midst of trying to adjust to a change in my sleeping habits and behavior. Like, I would get up, now more so than anything, I'm getting up at like 4:30 in the morning. So that's put me going to bed around like 9-10 o'clock. It is somewhere between there is when I'm best, like when I'm feeling most comfortable going to sleep. And Monday nights I do something, Tuesday nights I do something, Thursday nights I do something, and two of those somethings happen at 9 o'clock and go on later, so that really mucks up my my sleeping a little bit, and I think that's been part of the cause. Part of it's probably also just eating trash. I am like a raccoon, just kind of not necessarily going out into the dumpsters and diving, but eating not as well as I should for an old man like myself. Throwing a salad or two every now and again, start feeling a bit more spry, start feeling a bit better about myself. So perhaps that is the simple key that I keep on dropping. Anyway, that I haven't really played anything. I did over the past weekend. I am too lazy to go fetch it, as it is. I can see it. It is literally 10 feet away from me. But a mask did a one shot over the weekend in person with two new people who had never played any sort of tabletop thing. So they enjoyed it. And, it's not hyper strict in the sense of like a lot of D&D rule stuff. I think of it more like a bebop session where there's a bit of improvisation and just you're having fun with it. Having fun with it, but trying to have fun with it within... that's not just, okay... All right. Nah, at least if you roll well and you go what you're going for, okay. If you don't do that, then there's problems. Like they actually solved a problem without having to fight somebody, so I was actually happy about that, because that seems to be the default for everything. And I get it. Sometimes you don't want to engage with nefarious characters as they were. Understandable. This wasn't a nefarious character. It was just a simple automaton, just kind of doing its business. So, yeah. I did. I don't know where it is. Probably in the other room. Because it was a shipwreck scenario, and so they were leaving, and the ship gets attacked by a giant squid. And I couldn't find a proper hat for it, so I bought a little plushy blooper, the little Mario blooper. His name was Jerry. And they had fun with that. Just, something silly. Yeah, so it was a good time. A little bit more of a low-key affair, but it was fun. It was good quality fun. Yeah, I don't really have terribly much else. Like I said, it's like I've been getting the prep work done for that, and then also just being very sleepy with my sleep schedule as is. I did get a book that I don't know when I'll get around to reading it, but it is Surrounded by Idiots by Thomas Erickson. And just a little bit about it. Author Thomas Erickson explains that there are 4 key behavior types that define how we interact with and perceive others. Understanding someone's patterns of behavior is the key to successful communication. The so-called idiots in our life, idiots in quotation marks, in our lives are often simply people who have a different behavior profile and style of communication. Reds are dominant and commanding. Yellows are social and optimistic. Greens, laid back and friendly. Blues, analytical and precise. Erickson explains how to identify and interact with each type of person, and the simple 4-color system allows you to speedily identify a friend or coworker and adjust how you speak and share with them. Surrounded by Idiots is full of practical information to set you up for success in every area of your life. Now, why did I buy this book? Now, see, here's an interesting thing. I think if somebody buys this with the idea that I am going to figure out, oh, you're a red type of person, well, you're a blue type of person, you know, I think if you're doing that does not bode well necessarily. I more than anything, I would like to see where I fit on this, because if this if this doesn't clue you in onto who or what kind of person I am, I'm a bit of a goober. It's there's certainly things I can be less gooberish about, but at my heart, it is a gooey goobery center, and more than anything, I want to see where I would fall into these 4 categories, because not anybody I know personally, but I have heard somebody talk that their job, and this person works in the UK, that their job actually has like a personality test that they cut people into these 4 different categories and stuff. More than anything, it's a good chance for some reflection, retrospection, and go, okay, this is where this person probably, reading through these, how this person's presenting it, I probably fall into this, a blue category, let's say. If I'm feeling like that's my thing, okay, well, perhaps I myself can learn how I can communicate better. Like, what does it say? How to deal with a person who is blue? Oh, that? Well, then maybe I, as a blue person, should do that. More than anything, that's why I bought it, because I don't know. I think that if, for one, it's okay. In one hand, you're trying to trying to like figure out people or whatnot. I don't know. In one hand, and it could just be my wanting to just go the complete opposite way of it, but I feel like when you try to do that, you're setting yourself up for manipulative tendencies to be like, well, if this person's red, this is how I will deal with that person. It's like, for one, you're broad brush stroking somebody, and that's not fair to that person. That you need to treat people, and that's not saying anything about the book, because the book could immediately be like, hey, these are generalities, like, let's not I think that's a really bad stumbling block that especially with the advent of the internet and information all around is that there is this tendency to broad brushstroke behaviors because, well, we've got all these psychology things, or we've got all this science paperwork and stuff, so, if this, it automatically means this. And it's like, no, for one, each person is their own, and their experiences, their reactions to those experiences, how they go about doing things, that is uniquely theirs. And to boil it down, to reduce it down to, well, this is something that usually happens, or this is how people usually react to something like this. I think that's not right. I think that's unfair, and in a lot of ways can be really damaging. That's why I think it's, if you do have like a therapist or, a psychologist and stuff, that it's incredibly important that they couch everything that they do with a sense of responsibility that, oh yes, no, like not in the sense of I'm here to fix you, but more of I need to be very aware of what my words are capable of. And that, I say that, but in the other hand as well is that I think a problem that we have, particularly in the States, is that we feel that the general vibe is that the words spoken, by the speaker, as they were, that the speaker's words are where the power lies. And there certainly can be an allure to that, to somebody speaking. They can have some sort of grab on you. They can really, really get to you, and just kind of entrance you and mesmerize you, or really, it can make you feel like you've been seen. And I think that's where we tend to mistranslate authenticity, as that to be seen by the other. And that's great and grand and all, but the true power of communication lies within the listener. The listener, because that's where it all, that's where all the information is translated and fed through. So, I think we realize that to a certain degree, but I don't think we understand it on a greater degree than just certain instances of something. It's like, no, that it's the whole game. The listener is where all the power lies, because the listener can, take either really, really nice, flowery words from somebody and translate that out to, oh, well, they're trying to butter me up to get something, or, oh, they're being really friendly. Why is that? Oh, they're just a friendly person. It all comes back to the listener and their ability to discern things. Hence why wisdom is so paramount. It's hyper important, as in most important, and with it discernment, to be able to discern, and wisdom helps kind of that key. I say all that because the topic that I want to kind of talk into today, I don't know, that sounds kind of weird. Talk about today is the title of this episode is Heroic Disassociation. And at first I was kind of like, I don't know why I went with those two words. Sometimes I just pick words that just sound really nice together. Or just make a really interesting kind of like a mental image. Disassociation, heroic disassociation. It's something. Don't know what that something is, but I think it is. This is what we want to get to. So, for example, the idea is that I want to work from is that heroes are a reflection of the the heroes and their, or, protagonists and their qualities are the reflections of a society that wishes to emulate those or strive for those sorts of things. Not necessarily that they are able to replicate them, but to head that direction. And I used to believe that. And I don't necessarily believe that so much anymore, particularly on a societal level. Partially because A, that's unfair to all the outliers. B, we can see how what's the word I want to use? We can see how like just a piece of media can be seen by one person one way and then a different person an entirely different way. So obviously you're not going to get the full breadth of that. And I think part of that's due to just the absolute gluttony of information we now get. And I do mean that in a very stressful manner. Gluttony of information. Like, it is not good. At least for like the olden days and ancient times, you kind of just only get a little tiny peek at some of those. Particularly, a lot of those have had to deal with the crucible of time burning away a lot of extraneous garbage, or maybe not even garbage. That's not fair to those that didn't quite make it through. Just extraneous viewpoints, we'll say. They did not, as they say, stood the test of time. Anyways, I don't know where I'm going with that. I like to say things, but, no, where I am going with that. So, for example, I know I've talked about it before. I think there was even an episode about it, but I'll be darned to remember which one. Talking about idiomatic phrases. I think idioms are also another way to kind of pull back the curtain and to get a little peek at the gooey nougaty center of a Tootsie Pop. I'm kind of hungry for some candy. Anyway, but you get an idea for a people's win that with idiomatic phrases. For example, like blood is thicker than water. When you say that, it gives the idea that familial ties are much more resilient, enmeshed, stronger, depending on how you want to consider it, than those ties made elsewhere. We got that. There's the jack of all trade, master of none. We say that to kind of poke fun at somebody who I think that would be referred to as a bit of a Renaissance man. We kind of thumb our nose at the Renaissance man because he knows all these things, but he ain't a master of anything in particular. He just kind of knows a bunch of stuff. But there's the jack of all trade, master of none. Still better yet than a master of one. That paints a different picture. Curiosity killed the cat. That paints a picture that you really shouldn't be that curious. That can get you in trouble. But, curiosity killed the cat. But satisfaction brought it back. That really colors it a bit differently. And it also alludes to what exactly the cat is. Meow. But, yeah. Well, so we say these things. We have these thoughts and feelings. Like, what are words other than a way to try to express the the experiences we're having, the internalized and externalized stuff. So it's a bit of a window. Like, I have always felt that words are, like, I have a very peculiar relationship with words. I love them dearly. They are such pretty things. However, they are dastardly. They are deceiving. They are not anything to simply hang your coat on. Words are, from myself, I always figure that actions are the dish of life, or the dishes of life, your actions, and that words are the garnish or the seasoning for those dishes. So, you could have really, really flowery, beautiful, and just great words, and just really speaking to the heart of somebody. However, if the actions don't line up with those words, it makes for a very foul dish. And that's certainly pulling back the curtain on my mentality, mindset on things. That's you can say anything and everything, but however, it's like when you say, "Oh, I'm going to work out today. I'm going to work out today. I'm going to work out today," and you keep saying that, and then you don't work out that day. How is that supposed to make you feel? If you tell everybody that you are going to do that, and then you don't do that, well, what are people going to think? And even if, less about the external, just about yourself. You're telling yourself, "Hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this," and then you don't do that. How are you supposed to perceive yourself? You fibber? You just kind of telling yourself some lies, and you're trying to get by. Dum 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 dum. I don't know where I'm going with any of that, but stop fibbing to yourself. Go work out. Anyways, where I'm getting with all of this sort of stuff of like heroes and whatnot is much more on a individual level. That's the word I want. Individual. Much more on an individual level than a societal one. And that is, sure, that's a lot of work, but in the same hand, it's important. I think that's part of the problem with social media, is that we have all this greater tendency of not necessarily just shallow, but just easy connections, that the brain kind of goes, okay, well, I'm having all these easy connections. I don't really want to put in the work to figure out all the good and bad of somebody. I'm just going to throw them into one category or the other. This is why, like, when you have like a person you admire, or even just a character that you admire, you're like, "Oh, I like this character." Well, this character did the one thing, or this person did the one thing that really is not good. And you're like, that's pretty bad. When that happens, then it's all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, they did the one bad thing, so that means all of the good or the well intentions or the good intentions are no longer like valid. Now you muck up one bad way, and then it's all for naught. And there's certainly, I think, some degree of that, right? Where it's, particularly if you're talking about one thing that's bad, but then you do the bad thing in secret. It's like, oh well, really, I mean, perhaps you should be listening to yourself if that's the case. What I wrote on this here is that So something I wrote because I wanted to make sure I got it out here is that admiration of the character's qualities, actions, etc. The greatest trouble, the greatest need, or the need for great nuance. If a person is admired for one aspect, they ought to be condemned for a bad one. This isn't hypocrisy. That's more so grace. And not necessarily grace and forgiveness, but more of like grace and understanding. Like, you can have these good qualities, but, I think it's important, especially with friends, to call out those bad qualities. Or what, I consider bad qualities. But in the same hand, it's like, it's one thing to be like, I condemned is a bit of a hard or a heavier word for it, but I think it depends on what you're going for. It's be like, I don't think that's a good way to go about it. It's not to say, well, I don't, especially if it's not anything like everything that is not how to put it. Everything that we mortals contend with is on a sliding scale, and we can certainly try our best to go toward righteousness, but how far can we go? We certainly can try to go that way, but then there's also just kind of gray, like a scaling level of that sort of thing. In the same hand, it's also, you should really be directing that back toward yourself as much, probably not as much, but infinitely more so than other people. Like I think that's probably why I couch a lot of my language and stuff is like less wiggle room for myself and more of like wiggle room of understanding that yeah. Anyways, yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about heroes and the personal self, particularly using me as an example, because I just know so much about me. And I know everything about me. Yeah, this way you can kind of get... well, I'll bring it up as a thing and be like, not necessarily to the full extent, but I think you would get an idea of characters. Well, I'm using characters more than anything. Characters that I like, the heroic qualities of them that I think you can get a good idea of me, myself. And that's, of course, there is that tricky notion as well, is that even with that, you can have those characteristics that you appreciate, but then it also, rubber meets the road. Do you have the willpower to try to emulate that? And I think that's kind of where the disassociation comes in, is that we can, some people may just appreciate from afar and be like, yes, that is really good. I could never do that. And then they just leave it at that. And I don't, I don't like that myself, because it's like you have that capacity within you as well. Whether that's the capacity to do great good, capacity to do great evil. Yeah, I think that is there within us all, and it is the choice to do one or the other, or to fall somewhere in between. Yeah. Yeesh. Yeah. Welcome to Rambling Weekly, where I ramble like an idiot very weekly. And sometimes not weekly at all. Alright, so. Characters and qualities of which... Because I will start with all the different things that I like, and we'll go from there. So, for example, we'll start with the Redwall series. Really just talking just the series in general. But good old Matthias to start off, especially because this was the first book in the series that I read. Being a quizzical young kid, adventurous and stuff, coming into his own. It was always a nice beacon to start with as a child. How old would I have been? 12, I think. Oh, I don't think I was 11. I think it was 12. So, but yeah, it's just that we're going to try to do good and being clever to a degree, but also there's a little bit of clumsiness, but coming into your own sort of stuff that I really appreciate, and it is, I like it. Hiding back over here. It's been a hot minute since I've read it. Oh, come here. Bron Mockmorn, Robert E. Howard. So, the leader of the fictitious depiction of the Pict folk as they are trying to stave off Roman invasion. He sees how doomed his people are, but continues to fight nonetheless. And that kind of quality, I really like. That. In certain ways it can be great. It is a bit of a double-edged sword to have this unyielding, unbreakable will for that. If you're doing it for righteous causes, then okay, that's great. But if you have this unbendable will, but you are a schmuck, that's where you start to get into stubbornness, pig-headedness. So, Bron Mockmorn gets a quick little mention, as well as Conan the Barbarian. Yes. So, another Robert E. Howard collection of works. And just, he's I just like Conan the Barbarian. Yeah, I don't really have a good. It's ridiculous. He's giant. Not necessarily mountain of a man, but a giant, very, very sneaky thief-ish kind of character. The thief aspect really gets forgotten about in Conan, but especially thinking about it, and I think that's partially due to having the depictions of him in the film, as well as just visual depictions of him to be like, they kind of poke fun of it in the original Arnold movie, where it's like, you're too big to be a thief. But the another protagonist, Kime, there from Lost Odyssey, always really appreciated with that how he was able to overcome his apathy in living life and to learn to appreciate the peaks and the valleys that will ultimately come from that. So it is I really, really enjoy that. I think that is very important, to not fall to despair of apathy and to live life and not just. I think the problem is when you say live life, it tends to skew into the interpretation of, just do whatever hedonistic thing makes you feel good. With just then that in itself neglects the whole problem of the paradox of hedonism, right? If you pursue pleasures in the moment, how much does that destroy your pleasures of the future? Or how do you value those? Like, how do you turn it into a point ranking system of like, well, this pleasure is a 5 and this is a 6 and this is an 8 and this is a 2, and it is the that is no, but to live life, I think more than anything to appreciate the living of life by living it and treasuring those moments, and also just even the small things. I think that's a big part of it that I really appreciated, is in those memory sequences. They aren't these like grand, super, oh, save the world. It's all about saving the world, but you didn't save yourself, kind of thing. What is the point then, right? It is, appreciating all those small moments that make up 95% of your life, and then the other 5% is either big moments or you're sleeping. So that is that. Cowboy Bebop. I love me bebops, and part of that is also due to just enjoying the music and stuff, but the the big lesson of don't leave stuff in the fridge, right? That's a good lesson to take away from it, and that's something that the characters struggle with, and it is a lesson they have to some of them have to relearn, and so that is, I think it's something. I don't know. I feel like that's like this is the interesting thing, right? Of you can like the same media and characters as another person, but then it's also like, what do they bring out? Like, for example, I in all those different episodes that are recorded with Mr. Sushibi, we went through every episode and did a talk and deep dive into those and stuff. Well, maybe not a deep dive, but we had a discussion about them and stuff. That like the same person, or same character that two different people might like them for very different reasons. So it's part of the reflection, that you kind of have to figure out as well. The part of the nuance, the part of the work that needs to be done on that sort of thing. I love Bebop to death. Spike drives me up a wall. I don't know if I necessarily idolized Spike as a kid, or was like, oh, he's really cool. I probably did. Maybe not to an unhealthy degree, where I was just like, oh, I am, projection. That's where Conan comes in. Maybe not. I'm joking, but I never did that with Spike. But like Spike's character always annoyed me, because it was just like, what are you doing? Same thing goes with Jet and Faye. It's like, I love those two characters, but it's like, you really are making this hard on yourself. And it's just it's a good way to want to drive yourself crazy, but it's also another way to be able to go through that emotional labor to then do that same emotional labor for people in your life, to be like, you are making this way more difficult on yourself. Why are you doing that? But yeah. So that good old genealogy of Holy War. Not so much Celeste's aspect of things, but more Sigurd's. That's his push to try to get through everything, and his struggles much more appreciative of. And it's like, okay, all right. Yeah, then you look at him, it's like, you are unfortunately a little too too accepting there. You get yourself in trouble doing that. Now, there could be plenty said about the awfulness of the writer's behavior and stuff. However, the character of Kenshin from Rurouni Kenshin, Kenshin's character always really fascinated me. I thought that it is a very interesting quandary to put upon yourself of how far ought one go or should go or needs to go to atone for their past evil deeds, and like the forgiveness in that, and then to how to approach that moving forward and stuff, especially when problems of the past, of bad deeds prior, come rearing their ugly heads. So at that point, it is just for the Kenshin character, it is a I always really appreciated about that character. It's just it's like recognizing, okay, this is not the way to do it, but then still having problems with things, and then figuring out, oh well, if he could just be as cool as his master, he could certainly cut through a whole lot of problems. But that's just not how that is. More importantly, if anything, I actually wanted to really touch on this one, and that is Batman, the animated series. So I, as a child, loved Batman, the animated series. And I think that what has happened to the Batman character has been a great disservice. But this is also where it's a great reflection of what people may value or like or appreciate. So, old school Batman in the sense of the 90s, and maybe even into the early aughts, it was all about trying to rehabilitate those people. Always trying to, it's I don't remember what episode it is, but when he's constantly trying to get Harley Quinn to, for lack of better words, behave herself. And she gets at the end of the episode she gets caught, and she's just like, why did you try to help me for that day? Why did you stick around me for that day and stuff? It's been a while since I watched it. I really should watch the episode, but I do remember that scene. It's like, why did you try to be around me that whole day and keep me out of trouble? And Batman's like, oh, I had a bad day once too, and that encapsulates a part of it. And there's a random offshoot episode with I think it's like a Justice League episode or whatnot, reflecting back on why it's a long, it's a little torturous to get to it. We'll just say that Batman was he took it upon himself to basically be like, oh, this girl's having has all this like psychic power, and she's gonna destroy stuff. You need to kill her before she destroys stuff, because she's dying, and this is kind of her last moments of lashing out and stuff. And then Batman's like, I'll take care of it. I think it's Ace from the Royal Flush Gang, I think is the name of the group. But he goes to her, and he talks to her, and she's just like, he just sits with her in her last moments, and just lets her kind of be, and it's that part of that rehabilitation sort of thing, and trying to, it's like, you can stop them, but it's like, yes, I can stop them, but you need to, if you force them to stop, and you do it through your will, as opposed to them learning to not choose those bad ways, then they don't ever learn. I think that's kind of the message I always got from it, and that's kind of how I am. It's one thing to teach a child. It's another thing when they are adults, and adults are, I don't think it's not necessarily a wrong mentality of like, oh, adults are nothing more than grown-up children. But in the same hand, I don't fully agree with it. It's like adults are adults, and you can't rehabilitate somebody if their habilitation, it's not even a word, is if their habits are already set in a certain way, right? So, and with a child, you can kind of, push the scales a little bit easier and stuff, but not so much with an adult. They've got to make that choice themselves. So, that's how I always felt with that. But nowadays, Batman's basically he comes across as the Punisher. And it's, the old this old school Batman. The idea was that Bruce Wayne was the mask and Batman was the actual soul of the person, actual character of the person coming through. At least that's how, if I remember correctly, that's how Conroy had read the intentions of it, or just kind of approached the character and the mindset. And I would, it always felt that whenever Bruce Wayne was around or on screen, it was a little, you could say it was kind of a hollow. Yeah, you're like, this doesn't seem right, and then you give it to Batman, you're like, that's the actual person. So like that, I think that this is when I mean the heroic disassociation. It's like, I love the old school Batman and stuff, and in some ways it sort of pains me to have to say the old school Batman, and not just because he just seems so different in a lot of ways. But I think that's what makes the heroicness of the character, is that constant choice to try to, of course there's the the beating up and fighting and stuff like that. Okay, all right, I think that's catching sight of the tree and missing the whole forest, personally. And I think we've really focused on that tree. And then like there's the newest iteration stuff like Absolute Batman, which David, a previous guest on the show, he was talking about. He told me about it. It's like, oh yes, it's a absolute universe where there's an omega particle that skews everybody towards doing evil things. And it's like, oh, that's horrendous. Like, that is just awful. It's just, I had seen a couple of panels, and I'm just like, this is not good. I mean like in the most purest sense of the word good. Like this is like not wholesome. Sure, could I be a little, I don't know. What's the word I want to use? I would much rather be aiming towards trying to be wholesome, trying to be good, as opposed to, so Sudrama, the first book, as much of a muddled mess as it is, that really needs another editing process through it at some point. This thing here, I wouldn't say necessarily my pride, and it certainly ain't my joy, because it is not a very joyful read. This here is a bit of a condemnation on the whole gray morality and that sort of thing, because I think what that does is, I remember growing up in the kind of the backhandedness toward Superman was, well, nobody can be like Superman, so what are we even doing here? It's like we had the whole Nietzsche idea of, oh, well, you got the you strive towards the Ubermensch kind of thing. We said, no, we don't want to do that work. We won't ever reach that, so what's the point? And so that's where all of this, the gray morality and everything, and this is what Sudraba is a condemnation of that. Because, where does gray morality get you? It doesn't, there's not really much to strive for at that point. And that, I guess, is part of the, what's the, Star Trek Next Generation. Data makes a child, lol. Not like LOL lol, but like lol, like I think it's a Buddhist word for happiness or something. I could be wrong. However, his creation is much better at understanding emotions and stuff that Data cannot process. And Lol's like, well, why are you trying to do that? Like, you will never be quite human. And Data comes back with the response is that it's not so much the reaching of the goal, but it is the striving for that goal. It's the whole process. I'm going to look up the quote for this because I like this quote. If I could figure it out. Da 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 da. Okay, so it's the episode The Offspring. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so the back and forth is this. So Lol is like, I watch them and I can do the things they do, but I never feel the emotions. I'll never know love. And Data's like, it is a limitation we must learn to accept, Lol. And then Lol's like, then why do you still try to emulate humans? What purpose does it serve except to remind you that you are incomplete? And I think that that's the attitude that a lot of we tend to have is like, well, I will never be like that. Why try that? Why try to become this? We like to take pieces and parts of stuff and be like, oh well, here's the Superman saying these things about this, or but we don't want to try to strive and to be fully like that. We just want to pick pieces and parts because it's too hard to strive. Especially when it reminds our own inadequacies. There we go, inadequacies. And that's yeah. And Data responds, I have asked myself that many times, as I have struggled to be more human, until I realized it is the struggle itself that is most important. We must strive to be more than we are, Lol. It does not matter that we will never reach our ultimate goal. The effort yields its own rewards. And then she's like, you are wise, father. And Data's like, it is the difference between knowledge and experience. And it is this failure of, it's similar, like, I feel like, and I really want to do like a big old hullabaloo episode or video talking about like what is strength. Because it's I think that's important. So I think this is where it is something that is repeated in characters. In Sudraba, the thief, the adulteress and the thief character demonstrates that that they are not very strong. They're maybe physically strong, or at least physically strong enough to accomplish tasks, but they are not spiritually strong. They are not strong of will, because once they reach a certain goal, they, you know, as bad as that goal may be, they don't really have anything beyond that. You know, the will of the characters to do the right thing, to continue to choose to do the right thing, in spite of all the problems that it may cause. That in itself is, you know, where strength lies, and strength lies in not only choosing that, but also to recognizing that these are. I think that it kind of the lesson from like Vagabond, of, you know, trying to figure out, you know, what is strength, and strength is the, or, you know, true strength is being able to be at peace with yourself, and to have that sort of understanding that, you know, sure, we all have our inadequacies. That's we can't be everything, but it is certainly a damnable thing to accept that we can't be everything, and then just kind of regress and just be like, you know what, I'm not even going to try. Yeah, I'm good. Blech. Or to point and be like, oh, see, look at, yeah, like, you know, Ant-Man can do that, but I can't do that. That's not, I can't, that's where the, yeah, that's, yeah. Angry old man shakes his fist. So, that's, I think that's the, yeah, I think that's the problem we're kind of dealing with. Is we have all these different examples of heroes or heroic deeds, but it's just too hard. And why do that? Why make the effort to do a good deed, or to do better than our previous self, or the, you know, or even just if it's a moment before, and I just fall into the easy, and just take it easy. And I mean, I get it. I get it. I like to be lazy. I too am not impervious to that bad behavior and moral failings. But it is I guess it's the highlight, right? Yeah, it's that disassociation, right? It's well, that the character can do that. I can't do that. That's, well, yeah. When you co-sign yourself to that sort of behavior, then you get heroes that you are like, oh, well, I could do that. Anybody can do that. Okay. Yes, anybody can do that. Anybody could, quote unquote, do that. You know, right? And it's kind of I feel like, oh, that's what we've backslid into, is the moral ambiguity, and that it is the ends justify the means, and I do not agree with that on a personal philosophy. That, well, as long as you get to that, if you get to the end point of what you're aiming for, it doesn't matter how you get there. And I think that that's a very foolish way to look at it, because just because that's your end point for something doesn't mean that there isn't anything else beyond that. And not only is that there not anything else beyond that, that anybody else observing that's their agreed upon end point as well. Yeah. I think that's why the ends don't justify the means. If you do it that way, then okay, then anything that anybody does is justifiable, because they're just trying to get to the ends of what their set goal is, and it is a foolish way to look at it. So Yeah. That's all I got for this episode. Just kind of a little bit about talking about heroes and characters that I like and stuff, and perhaps in that you can get an idea of at least the things that I try to either value or emulate. Notice I didn't bring up James Bond because as much as I like Bond, dude's a bit psycho. They're certainly great to be competent on doing things, but I think there's a little bit of a difference between being a little too analytically psycho and at least in the movies there's certain je ne sais quoi, certain personable agreeableness to some of those actors and stuff, but yeah, not quite. Not quite the same. Perhaps again, that's where Conan comes in. But yeah, and I don't remember the episode, but there's certainly a very long time ago. I think this is in the 30s or 40s for a rambling. If I can find it. Okay, all right. Oh, brain. Okay, all right. Now it was something about like. Let's see here. Where are you at? I know, like I can remember episode 4, the 43rd. Yes, because it's got a hero slime on the thumbnail. Our unspoken duty. The value of hope. Be light bringers. Be hope weavers and such. I think that would be a nice leap off point for a. Oh my! It has been 3 years. I'm dying. Anyway, that's all I got. Thanks for watching, listening, and all that sort of fun jazz. Enjoy the rest of your week. I might pop in with one on Sunday. I don't know. But if anything, just enjoy the rest. Enjoy until the next one. Have a good day. Good night. Good weekend. Good weekday. Everything in between. And I will catch you next time. Toodles.